Welcome. You're listening to the Malcontent News Russia-Ukraine War podcast, the show that cuts through the fog of war and updates you about the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts.
Hello, I'm Marina Yevshan, your host of the Russia-Ukraine War Report podcast, and today is October the 7th, 2024. It has been 3,906 days since Russia started covert military operations in Crimea, 10 years and 229 days since the start of the Russia-Ukraine war, 2 years and 226 days since Russia expanded its war of aggression, and 63 days since Ukraine counter-invaded Russia. Today's podcast covers the events that happened over the weekend and Monday morning. Our Russia-Ukraine war map is a great companion to the podcast, and there is a link in the podcast description. There are only small map updates today. The Russia-Ukraine War Report is compiled by our team from around the world. Today's report includes information from our direct contacts and journalists in Ukraine, the Russian Ministry of Defense, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine morning reports, operational commands north, south, and east of Ukraine, open source intelligence, our in-house team of analysts and geospatial experts, and pro-Ukrainian and pro-Russian male bloggers and social media channels with a track record of trying to be accurate. We have one mission: the truth, because the truth matters. Here is my daily assessment. 1. Autocrat Vladimir Putin's order to recapture the Kursk region of Russia and capture Chasiv Yar, Donetsk, New York, Mironograd, Pokrovsk, Kurakhove, and Selidove by October the 15th is almost impossible, and in our assessment, a new deadline of December the 31st will be set. 2. We remain unsure if the current operational tempo is a new normal, or if Moscow is attempting to advance as far as possible before fall weather arrives. We maintain that the current intensity of fighting is unsustainable, and at some point Russian combat operations have to decline. 3. Continued nuclear threats from Moscow highlight how the world remains caught in the mutually assured destruction instability paradox. 4. The lack of a meaningful response by Ukraine's allies and international organizations to open and unrestricted attacks on civilians and civilian infrastructure by Russia has convinced Moscow this is an effective strategy with no political consequences. 5. Russia will maintain its attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, continuing Russian crimes against humanity that started in October 2022, as outlined in 4 arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Court. The continued attacks are increasing the probability of a nuclear accident at one or more of Ukraine's nuclear power plants due to a loss of external power connections. 6. The policy of escalation management implemented by the NATO alliance and the United States is a complete failure that has only encouraged Russia to escalate hybrid and kinetic warfare actions against the NATO alliance and Ukraine's allies and their economic interests. 7. The Russian economy is much weaker than reported. 8. We maintain there could be a shift in Washington's policy toward Ukraine's request for deep strikes within Russia after the November the 5th national elections. We do not expect a meaningful change in NATO alliance policy after the Ramstein format meeting in October the 12th. Over the weekend, Russia carried out 457 discrete assaults, including 141 on Sunday. Through October the 6th, the 7-day moving average for daily attacks dropped to 155. Over the previous 7 days, Russia carried out 1,085 attacks, a 7.4% decrease from the week before. The VKS, that's the Russian Aerospace Forces, conducted 86 airstrikes, dropping 109 bombs, and Russian ground forces conducted approximately 4,500 fire missions. In the Kursk region, Ukraine controls 1,016 square kilometers, with another 254 in the grey zone, for a total area of 1,274 square kilometers. There are 2 bridges. The first, from Nikolaeva-Daryina to Kucherov, is 70 kilometers wide, and the second, at Novy Put, is 21 kilometers. Ukrainian forces are up to 26 kilometers in depth from the main breach at Sudzha and up to 6.4 kilometers deep from the second breach at Novy Put. Ukraine controls 83 hamlets, villages and settlements, including important infrastructure facilities such as the Sudzha gas metering facility. Of those, 27 are under administrative control of the provisional government. Over the weekend on the battlefield, there were only small changes to the line of conflict. Let's go into the details of the most important events over the weekend. Ready? Here we go. Operational tempo in the Kursk region of Russia remains low, with localized positional fighting resulting in small changes to the line of conflict. In the Glushkovsky district, Russia recaptured part of Krasnooktябрьsky, with Ukraine carrying out renewed airstrikes on buildings they previously occupied. The line of conflict was adjusted by 1,000 meters in the direction of Novy Put. 2 Russian armored fighting vehicles and a main battle tank were destroyed in Kalinina, northwest of Veselaya. Russian armor was also destroyed at the pig farm east of Veselaya. A Ukrainian drone missed a Russian SUV in the settlement of Sadove Tovarishchestvo Glushkovo, filmed by Russian troops in a bunker with anti-drone fencing over the openings. Near Korenevo, fighting continued in the eastern part of Obukhovka. Russian forces may have attempted a breakout from Kremyane. The 41st Mechanized Brigade destroyed 3 armored vehicles near the settlement. 2 infantry mobility vehicles were moving east on the Kremyane-Sheptuchovka road, and a BTR-82 armored personnel carrier which turned south before reaching Kalinov and traversed the field parallel to the Ukrainian-controlled tree line. The map wasn't updated due to the destruction of the vehicles, the direction of travel indicating they came from the encirclement, and no additional signs of Russian troop movements. Russian sources reported fighting near Lyubimovka, Nikolaevo-Daryina, and Plekhovo. However, it appears that all of the semi-reliable mail bloggers were only repeating what was reported by the Russian Ministry of Defense. Here is what's happening in my home of Ukraine. Russia claimed they recaptured the machine aggregate plant in Vovchansk, releasing a video of a single Russian soldier holding a flag on the first floor of a bombed-out building. Fighting continued in the remains of the city, with Russian forces attacking Ukrainian positions with artillery, thermobaric rockets and airstrikes. We are not convinced this was a successful Russian advance, and the map was left unchanged. In the Luhansk Oblast west of Kreminna, Russian forces carried out attacks from Nevske to Torske without success. On the Kreminna-Zarychny road, a new turret toss record may have been set. A Russian T-72 tank was destroyed west of Dubrova, with the explosion sending the turret 84 meters into the air. That's 276 feet for the Americans. This is higher than the previous record set in April 2022, when a T-72 tank turret was sent an estimated 76 meters into the air near Mariupol. We congratulate the Russian tank crew for their promotion to cosmonaut. There is a link to the video in today's situation report. There's more information in the podcast description. In occupied Belovodsk, an animal feed plant was attacked by a Ukrainian drone. Local residents claim Russian troops used the factory to store military equipment. The amount of damage is unknown. Near Siversk, a squad of Russian troops tried to attack in the direction of Verkhnyokamyansk and were wiped out before they even reached the zero line. With 3 killed and 2 wounded, the 2 wounded soldiers attempted to kill themselves with a grenade, but failed. The last unwounded soldier killed the pair with a grenade and then tried to retreat across the open fields to Zolotarivka, but became wounded and resorted to killing himself. An important sidebar: mental illness and suicide are sensitive topics, and their discussion can trigger strong feelings. If you are having suicidal thoughts or you are despondent, there is help available. In the United States, you can call 988 or 800-273-8255 or text 741-741. Veterans can text 838-255. In Canada, you can call 833-456-4566 or text 45645. In the United Kingdom, you can call 0800-689-5652 or 999. In Ireland, you can call free phone 116-123, Ireland and Northern Ireland, or text 50808 in Ireland only. In Australia, you can call 13 11 14 or 000 or text 0477 131114. In New Zealand, you can call 0508 828 865 or 111. And in Ukraine, you can call 7333 24/7. Approximately 100 Russian soldiers killed themselves versus surrendering or waiting for medical evacuation a month, and the number has steadily increased in 2024. Experts we talked to said that most of the battlefield suicides are not done out of fanaticism or an intense sense of duty. We were told that fanatics are more likely to commit perfidy by pretending to surrender and then trying to kill approaching Ukrainian troops. The battlefield acts are mostly done out of hopelessness due to ill treatment, a lack of leadership, and no clear understanding of their mission and objective. If a Russian soldier is documented killing themselves on the battlefield, even in compliance with their training and orders, families are not paid survivors' benefits. Near Kostiantynivka, the VKS was forced to shoot down its own S-70 Okhotnik B heavy combatant crewed aerial vehicle. The debris crashed near the city and was collected by Ukrainian forces. The S-70 is a massive UAV, reportedly based on the Su-57 fighter plane architecture and powered by a single turbine engine. Making its first flight in 2019, only 3 are known to have been built, with a possible 4th pre-production unit. Serial number C-74 was the one shot down. Russia claimed that the drone was made out of composite materials with stealth coatings, making it virtually undetectable by radar. The wingspan is 20 meters, and the flying wing is powered by an AL-31F turbofan engine, the same power plant used in the Su-27, with a flat stealth exhaust. Moscow claimed the S-70 could carry up to 8,000 kilograms, and the one that crashed in Kostiantynivka was carrying a single 500-kilogram D-30SN glide bomb found in the wreckage. It is claimed that the S-70 UAV was flying in linked coordination with the Su-57 to test the, quote, loyal wingman capabilities of the drone. Something went wrong with the test, and the crewed aircraft was forced to shoot it down. The communications link between the UAV and the aircraft was likely lost, but it is unclear whether this occurred due to electronic warfare or a technical issue. What has been learned about Russia's latest Wunderwaffe? Like other Russian wonder weapon programs, the claims about the capabilities and technology of the S-70 were grossly overstated. Much like the Su-57 that the UAV is allegedly based on, the skin was aluminium, not composite, and had no stealth coating. The construction was of low to moderate quality, with uneven panels with exposed rivets, increasing the radar profile. The discovery of the D-30SN bomb remains confirmed that the S-70 was equipped with the S-111N communications complex used by the Su-57. Despite the significant damage, some parts were recovered, which will provide insight into the design and potential weaknesses. If the drone was lost due to electronic warfare, it would be a new embarrassment for the Kremlin. The day after the drone was shot down, Russia reportedly attacked the crash site with an Iskander-M short-range ballistic missile. Ukrainian sources reported that most of the debris had already been removed. Fighting remains heavy in southwestern Donetsk Oblast, but the number of attacks dropped by a third. There were no significant changes to the line of conflict recorded, but Ukrainian forces have not stabilized their defensive lines where Russian troops recently advanced. At least in the short term, Russian combat potential is declining. There are growing complaints of ammunition shortages, both small and large caliber, a disadvantage in the number of drones, and, more critically, that fresh troops are being sent to the front with less than 4 days of training, including never firing their service weapon. In occupied Avdiivka, Ukraine did a rare short-range attack using 2 Storm Shadow cruise missiles and a single ATACMS, striking the command post for the 35th Motor Rifle Battalion, 27th Motor Rifle Division. The attack reportedly killed 20, including 6 North Korean officers who were in occupied Donetsk Oblast as military observers. We had previously reported about Pyongyang's plan to send military officials to the Donbass as observers of Russian battlefield tactics. In occupied Donetsk, Russia deployed bomb shelters. Occupation forces continue to claim that Ukraine is shelling the city, which, due to Russian advances that started a year ago, is now impossible. Residents have made videos showing that the structures aren't solid concrete. Instead, they are made with a thin layer of concrete for looks, applied over styrofoam. Residents are pulling apart the shelters with their bare hands. An analysis of Russian losses since October 4, 2023, when the Avdiivka offensive started, concluded that over a year Russia lost 1,830 pieces of heavy weapons and support vehicles, including 539 tanks and 1,020 armored vehicles. That's the equivalent of 137 fully staffed NATO companies, 44 battalions, 15 brigades, or 4 full mechanized divisions. Put another way, this would be equivalent to France losing its entire tank fleet to advance 39 kilometers in a year. These losses, even for Russia with its deep Cold War equipment dividend, are not sustainable. In occupied Mariupol, Russian units continue to report that partisans are poisoning soldiers. Over the last 2 weeks, it's claimed that 17 Russian troops have been killed, including 3 officers. Overnight, Ukraine launched a large attack on occupied Crimea, targeting Belbek and Saki military airfields. Air defense was active and multiple explosions were reported. At least 3 drones struck the oil storage depot and transshipment terminal in Feodosia. Video showed at least 4 tanks were burning, and at sunrise on Monday, 3 large fires were still burning at the site. The oil depot is the largest in occupied Crimea, and after the damage of the Kerch Bridge and the loss of all 3 Ro-Ro railroad car ferries, Russian occupiers have found it challenging to maintain a stable fuel supply. If the transshipment terminal is damaged, or if the fires can't be brought under control, the loss of the fuel depot could have significant consequences. On October 4th, Romanian officials confirmed that another Russian Shahed 136 one-way drone violated its airspace, crashing in the Danube River Delta. The Ministry of National Defense of Romania declared, quote, "The Ministry of National Defense sends a firm message of condemnation of these attacks carried out by the Russian Federation against objectives and elements of Ukrainian civil infrastructure, which are unjustified and in serious contradiction with the norms of international law." At the Odessa region port of Pivdenny, Russia claims it struck a cargo ship carrying weapons and ammunition with an Iskander-M short-range ballistic missile. The video did show some battle damage assessment, but there were no signs of secondaries or an unusually large explosion. It was the 3rd strike on a civilian cargo ship by Russia in less than a month. There have been no indications that arms are being sent by ship to Ukraine, which would violate the Montreux Convention.
You're listening to the Malcontent News Russia-Ukraine War Podcast. Our team of journalists, researchers, and analysts is funded by readers, listeners, and viewers just like you. To support independent journalism, please consider becoming a patron. You can find us on patreon.com/malcontentnews.
Going back to the Russian front. New satellite images show the October 3rd attack on Borisogledsk military airfield in the Voronezh region caused significant grass fires and burned some storage containers near the edge of the taxiway. It is unclear what was in the containers. On October 5th, Ukrainian drones struck the ethanol spirit alcohol distillery in Krasna, Voronezh Oblast, and the Novopeshanskaya distillery in Starый Oskol. Both facilities make industrial alcohol products and suffered significant damage. Also on October 5th, a fire broke out at the Moscow Higher Combined Arms Command School, although it is not believed to be related to a drone or missile attack. A win is a win. We'll take the win. Here is the weekend theater-wide update. Someone changed the sign, because it's been 0 days since a Russian official threatened nuclear war. Dmitry "Don't Make Me Nuke You" Medvedev, the deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, told reporters that Belarus, quote, will have every reason to turn to Russia to use the tactical nuclear weapons Russia provided the country if Ukraine or NATO attacks them. Autocrat Vladimir Putin ordered a mobile strategic missile unit in Novosibirsk activated, deploying at least one RS-24 Yars mobile ICBM launcher. No need to dig your backyard bunker, and it isn't clear if the launcher is even armed. At the upcoming October 12th Ukraine Defense Contract Group in Ramstein, Germany, which will be led by United States President Joe Biden, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will be presenting the Ukrainian Victory Plan to the entire delegation representing over 50 nations. The Minister of Defense of the Netherlands, Ruben Brekelmans, confirmed that the first Dutch F-16s, which retired just a week ago, have already arrived in Ukraine. He did not say how many have been transferred, but added, quote, the rest of the 24 jets will follow in the coming months. And that's what we know. Your support of my home, Ukraine, helps us make history and protect the future for all.
You've been listening to the Malcontent News Russia-Ukraine War podcast. To help keep us independent, please consider providing financial support by becoming a patron. Want on-demand news in your hand? Download the Google News app and make Malcontent News one of your favorites to receive breaking news updates. Thank you for listening.